If you have been up to date with the current state of the anime community, you may have heard of a certain underrated gem called the Apothecary Diaries, and more prominently its main character Maomao. Living off the fame and success of Frieren, the Apothecary Diaries managed to garner some popularity for itself among the anime community within the last 2 or so years. Many praises have been thrown at this anime for its quote-unquote well-written cast of characters and gorgeous animation. Anyways, most of its praises go to its main character Maomao. Many have testified of her greatness and declared that she is the best female anime main character we've had in a long time. People want her to be the standard for female character writing or the messiah of female characters in anime. For the reasons above, I had to check this anime out. I needed to see its self-proclaimed greatness. 1 season later, I've come back with utmost disappointment and regret to tell you that Maomao does not deserve the amount of praise she's given. She is neither a well-written female main character nor a well-written character at least, nor should she be the standard for female character writing. She is riddled with many cliches, inconsistencies, and bad writing in general, which actively harms her and her story, kinda like poison. So without further ado, let's properly discuss the disappointment of a character, be it a female one or a main one, that is Maomao. It is basic writing knowledge that the first action your character displays tells us about their personality. In Frieren, her slow mannerisms in episode 1 show that she's definitely not on the same clock with us. She is an elf that has lived for 1,000+ years, hence she perceives time slower when compared to how we humans with a much shorter life perceive it. In the first episode of Monster, Tenma's willingness to disobey his higher-ups to do what he knows is right showed us that he is a man of integrity. In the first episode of Arcane, during the heist scene, received via taking charge as a leader by instructing the others on what to do. This establishes her as a confident and decisive person. etc. Well, in the first episode of the Apothecary Diaries, we see Maomao going out of her way to use her knowledge from herbs or something to warn the concubines about the lead poisoning, which is the cause of their baby's sickness. She tried to warn them secretly to avoid drawing unnecessary attention to herself, but along the lines, the small convenient mistake she made allowed her to be discovered, and she was immediately taken in as a maid for a high-ranking concubine. It is, after all, human to make mistakes that enable us to get better job opportunities. Anyways, Maomao wasn't going to gain anything from this, but she still did it. This establishes her as a heroic character who goes out of her way and comfort to do what is right. The anime also spells it out for you too. That is why in the following episodes, in her oath to righteousness, she slapped the shit out of a lady in waiting twice her weight and height for acting out her stupidity and harming her master in the process. She also goes out of her way to save a person with royal blood and badly injures herself in the process. But wait, you are wrong. Maomao is a socially inept person, apathetic and an unbothered queen. That is why she doesn't get the very obvious signals that the prettiest boy in town, Jinshi, gives her. She also doesn't put her nose in others' business because it is simply a bother. She also didn't think about her adopted father for 3 episodes when she was kidnapped. She was very nonchalant about helping the almost dead concubine. She was nonchalant about the prospect of her dying for not accomplishing the emperor's orders. She disliked drawing attention to herself. She didn't give a shit when a particular higher up died, etc. She is also cynical, or at least the anime tries to convince us that she is, with her frequent cynical remarks. Wait, you are wrong again. Maomao is a kind and empathetic person who is capable of not only putting herself in the shoes of others, but also capable of showing compassion to those who have wronged her. That is why she offered assistance to those ladies in waiting that mocked her. She is able to empathize with her mother, who she vividly remembers trying to kill her when she was a baby. She went to confront a lady in waiting who tried to kill an innocent concubine to cover up her fatal mistake, to convince her to turn herself in so that she would receive a lighter sentence. She also taught the tea job to the almost dead concubine behind her own master's back, which helped rekindle her relationship with the emperor. She empathized with her mom, who has never shown her any kindness. She feels bad for all the high-ranking concubines in the palace, etc. She is also very socially aware, as we constantly see her easily navigating her way through the complex social environment of the imperial court. This can be seen during the tea party. She was immediately able to notice that the lolly's dress was inappropriate. She even went as far as to criticize her for not reading the room. She's also capable of picking up social cues in situations where others don't. I'm sure by now you must have noticed a pattern. Maomao's writing is very inconsistent. She's rammed with many underdeveloped personality traits that have a difficult time connecting to seem believable. It is clear she wasn't written with the intent to be believable, or at least consistent, but to be someone everybody must relate to, love, and root for. That is why she is both socially inept and socially aware, both cynical and empathetic, both ugly and beautiful. This makes her feel like a person suffering from dissociative identity disorder rather than a complex character. By doing this, Maomao has been deprived of any chance of growth or development in her characterization, or even any chance of her getting a character arc. You see, character arcs make a character feel complete and fulfilled. They also make our emotional investment towards a character pay off. That is why in Free-Ren, we feel happy for Free-Ren when she's undergoing her own character arc by gradually becoming less stoic and more empathetic by connecting more with humans through her journey. Meanwhile, in the Apothecary Diaries, we don't, because Maomao has all the traits she can grow to if you think about it. In a situation where she could have grown from being cynical to empathetic, she won't be able to because she already exhibits both traits. What good is your show if its main character is a stagnant bowls of many personality traits? You'll eventually get tired of them. This is even worse in the Apothecary Diaries because the side casts were given literal breadcrumbs to feed off on in the form of characterization. They merely exist to boost Maomao's presence or serve as unnecessary and pointless obstacles to her. Hence, if Maomao is supposed to be the saving grace of this anime, then it's already cooked. To sum it all up, Maomao's inconsistent writing deprives her of any chance of being complete. A very important aspect of Maomao I didn't mention previously is her being an apothecary. That is why green is a prominent color in her character design. It is also in the name of the anime, but the anime does a bad job in portraying who an apothecary is. First of all, let's know who an apothecary is. Defined by Merriam-Webster, an apothecary is one who prepares and sells drugs or compounds for medicinal purposes. They seldom see the side of Maomao in the anime because she's solving mysteries most of the time, which 9 out of 10 times have nothing to do with her field. And what she does that counts as her being an apothecary is when she occasionally glosses over herbs for like 5 seconds, or when she tastes or tests poison only twice throughout the entire 24 episode run of the first season of the Apothecary Diaries, and also when she performs first aid once too. It feels surprising to me how she has bountiful knowledge in her field when she does the bare minimum of practice, and she never makes any mistakes to learn from. Though she was supposedly taught everything by her glorified dictionary or dad, without constant practice or experience, one is bound to forget. And also, as a firm believer of showing not telling, constant practice or exposure will convince and encourage us to believe that she is an apothecary. Essentially, what I mean is that we seldom see her employ different medicine techniques like acupuncture, moxibustion, pulse reading, etc. You may be wondering how and where she could use this in her day-to-day activities, and the answer to that is more obvious than you think. So in season 1, her mistress was pregnant, yet we never saw Maomao taking her pulse to check the condition of her and her baby, as this was a commonly used method in ancient China to check people's condition by accessing internal organ health, qi and blood flow, and balance between yin and yang. It could also be used to check how many months pregnant a woman is. Actually, we don't even see her have regular checkups, which is odd because she's carrying a royal child who could potentially be the next heir to the throne. Another issue with Maomao's medicinal practice lies within her diagnosis, which is done entirely through looking at the patient. She doesn't even check the patient's pulse to access the flow of their qi in order to make a proper diagnosis of the patient's health condition. To be honest with you, she doesn't even have to constantly show traditional Chinese medicine practices. Any medicinal practice that fits the show's time period could have sufficed too. It just needs to be shown consistently and not consist entirely of looking. Anyways, it was a missed opportunity that the Apothecary Diaries chose to exclude this. Her trait as a toxicologist is also severely underdeveloped. The Apothecary Diaries totally relies on telling not showing to convince us that Maomao is completely obsessed with poison. I mean, she has only performed 2 poison experiments on her hand and tasted poison twice in the entire 24 episode run of the Apothecary Diaries season 1. She can also go for many episodes without encountering anything poison related and won't be bothered at all. Also, as a side note, isn't it a bad idea for her to be a poison taster, since she has clearly stated to be immune to many poisons so she can't detect them? Whatever. Anyways, I kept on asking myself as I watched this show, why does Maomao pretend to be passionate about poisons? Like, what does it tell us about her as a person? Is it because of the taste? Well, Well, no, because poison isn't a particular flavor like vanilla, so it doesn't taste consistent. Is it because of the thrill one might get from being on the brink of death by taking it, or the pain accompanied by its intake? Nope. Because Maomao is neither a gambler nor a masochist. Then what may it be? I don't know. The anime doesn't know. Maomao herself doesn't know. This very core aspect of Maomao's characterization is purely treated as a quirk. I know some of you are about to comment, God forbid a girl has a hobby. But you can't blame me for expecting an important aspect of Maomao's characterization to be treated more than a shallow indulgence. Let's look at Laois from Donji Meshi to see how someone's profession and passion can tell us more about their personality and characterization. First of all, his love for monsters isn't treated just as a quirk. The anime takes its time to show us that he has genuine passion for it. Every episode, Laoi's team encounters monsters since they are dungeon explorers, hence his knowledge on monsters is of paramount importance to his team. His constant exposure to monsters also builds up his knowledge on them. He also goes out of his way to learn more about monsters because he's very interested in them. Heck, I can't imagine an episode where he doesn't talk about monsters. That is how you show passion. I'll be heading into a bit of spoilers from the Donji Meshi manga, so here is a spoiler warning. In the manga, it is later revealed that Laoi's deep love for monsters is born from a hidden dislike of humans. Because of the way Laois and Falin were treated by the townsfolk when they were younger, Laois grew to secretly resent humans and like monsters more. Deep down inside his heart, he once wished for monsters to raid his village one day. In conclusion, that is how Donji Meshi ties Laoi's love for monsters to his characterization and backstory. The Apothecary Diaries could learn a thing or two from that. To be honest, these traits won't have to be underdeveloped if the anime only limited Maomao's mysteries and skills to poison and medicine related stuff, not metallurgy, personal makeup, floriculture, etc. Her deduction skills are quite shallow too. Maomao is usually presented with very few clues and she magically solves the mystery. Forget when she says, I mustn't judge by conjectures, because she always does and she's always right. The anime just uses that as an excuse to make her seem careful and thoughtful. A quick example is in episode 15. She was able to perfectly solve the bureaucrat poisoning mystery without examining other possibilities. Continuing on with Maomao's shallow characterization, let's point out her shallow flaws. Her being socially inept is completely ignored in many moments and is purely treated as a quirk that makes the hottest guy in town, Jinshi, who is supposed to be posing as a eunuch, mind you, lust over her and not as a problem that can affect her relationship with people. Or like in the case of Riren, where her social ineptitude caused her to miss the signs her admirer showed her, only to then realize them at his funeral. Anyways, it is conveniently ignored many times in the show as we see her being very knowledgeable in social interactions. A nonchalant behavior too is another shallow flaw of hers which is conveniently forgotten during the times the author wants to make Maomao a compassionate and heroic character that everybody can and must root for. I mean, we have Maomao risking her life in the 12th episode to save some royal family members she doesn't know, and we also have her in the first episode doing the same thing. So yeah, she's only nonchalant in like a select few times. Her ugly shtick has to be one of the most self-imposed flaws I have ever witnessed in my life. So basically, Maomao puts on 4 to 5 microscopic freckles to prevent herself from being essayed. Wow, I'm genuinely amazed. I refuse to believe this girl lived near a brothel because how can a supposedly smart and conscious human being conjure that shit up? This is an insult to any form of intelligence Maomao claimed she had. If the word of the Apothecary Diaries was somewhat believable, her plan would immediately backfire and Maomao would have used her brain for once and think of better solutions to her problem, like hiding poison on herself with a hairpin or something for protection. Or if you are still into that, hiding my jaw-dropping beauty roots, then induce harmless rashes on your face with your boundless knowledge of medicine and poison. Freckles hasn't stopped men from committing essay in the past and it won't stop them in the future. Well, anyways, when she removes those insignificant freckles, to everyone's surprise, she becomes this 10 out of 10 jaw-dropping speck that everyone can't seem to take their eyes off. But luckily for Mama, her beauty was barely used for prostitution. Moving on, her cynical nature is also for shits and giggles because we can see many instances of her being caring and empathetic to people she barely knows, pupils. I guess that's what happens to a child that grew up with love and care from her adopted parents and big sisters, and a pretty healthy environment for the most part. I wonder what's even the point of making her appear cynical in the first place, if what she mostly does is to save people out of genuine care rather than obligation. I guess it was to make her seem cool and edgy, but it instead makes her seem confusing. Anyways, all of her flaws are treated as shadow gimmicks rather than traits that affect her daily life or her relationship with people, so they can't really be considered as flaws. So, this will be all for part 1. I was initially planning on releasing this video as a whole, but I decided to split it into 2 since it will be too long as a whole. So, see you guys next time. Bye.